Singularity is a future period in which technological change will be so rapid and its impact so profound that every aspect of human life will be irreversibly transformed. Our computers are not going to be these rectangular devices we put in our pocket. They're going to be inside our bodies and brains, and we're going to be a hybrid of biological and non-biological intelligence. Technology feeds on itself, and it gets faster and faster. In about 40 years, the pace of change is going to be so astonishingly quick that you won't be able to follow it unless you enhance your own intelligence by merging with the intelligent technology we're creating. So that's such a profound transformation that we've borrowed this metaphor from physics and call that a singularity. Acceleration of technology is the implication of what I call the law of accelerating returns. 40 years ago, Gordon Moore saw that there was exponential growth in the power of semiconductors, of chips. Basically, every 2 years, we can put twice as many components on a chip, and again, shrink the size of these technologies 100,000-fold. In the next 25 years, we'll go from something that fits in your pocket to something that's the size of a blood cell.
What I'm going to tell you now may strike you as a bit outrageous. There's work in molecular nanotechnology, which will allow us to reconfigure matter according to our will. There's work on brain-computer interfacing, which will let us hook our brains into computers, radically enhancing our power of cognition.
Now we have nanotechnology. And with nanotechnology, perhaps, who knows, maybe in 100 years, we'll have something called the replicator. If you have a molecular assembler, you can turn, for example, a glass into wood, or vice versa. You would have the power of a magician. In fact, the power of a god. The ability to literally transform the atoms of one substance into another. The detractors will say, bah, humbug. There is no replicator. It violates the laws of physics. Well, actually, that's not true. There actually is a nanobot that can replicate, actually take apart molecules and rearrange them in fantastic ways. Mother Nature has already created it. It's called the ribosome. The ribosome can take hamburgers, milkshakes, and turn them into a baby in 9 months. That is a miracle.
All these other technologies will develop faster and faster. Instead of humans developing micro machines, nanomachines, brain scanners, artificial organisms, superhuman minds will be doing this science.
Why can't we improve human biology? Why can't we change our genome? Just because it's the way it is doesn't mean it's as good as it can be. Why do we age and die? Why can't we do something about that? I think it has to mean defined by our genes, because that's what separates us from other species. So if our genes then lead to a certain kind of brain development, a certain ability in the range of visual acuity, of auditory perception, which are limited by the way our genes have built us, then when we start talking about directly altering those genes to give us abilities beyond that, then we can talk about transhuman. Maybe we'll use nanotechnology, maybe we'll use some other method, maybe we'll use biotechnology.
In the future, everything will become intelligent. Nanobots will infuse all the matter around us with information. Rocks, trees, everything will become these intelligent computers. So at that point, we're going to expand out into the rest of the universe. We'll be sending basically nanotechnology infused with artificial intelligence. Swarms of those will go out into the universe and basically find other matter and energy that we can then harness to expand the overall intelligence of our human-machine civilization. So the universe will wake up, it'll become intelligent, and that will multiply our intelligence trillions of trillions fold. You know, we can't really fully contemplate, and that's really the main reason this is called the singularity. But regardless of what you call it, it will be the universe waking up. So does God exist? Well, I would say not yet.
If the world continues spinning long enough, I've no doubt that humanity is capable of producing a general AI from which will emerge, eventually, super AI. Whether that transpires sooner rather than later remains to be seen, But what is really interesting to me is how that people can learn all about the prospects and the possibilities and even the implications of humanity actually inventing a general and eventually a super artificial intelligence that is vastly superior to the human intellectual capacity, and yet still refuse to open their hearts and minds to the possibility of an already existing superintelligence who has infused the universe with his power and presence. I find Mr. Kurzweil's predictions extremely short-sighted and very species-centric, as if the human race is the be-all and the end-all, the ultimate, the paramount of all life in the universe. Does God exist? Kurzweil says, not yet. But not to fear, we humans with our nanotechnology will someday invent him. We will wake up the universe. We will bring the universe alive. Is this not the very pinnacle of egotism, to think that an intelligence superior to our own could not yet possibly exist, and that it is ultimately up to us human beings to bring such a being into existence, to invent God, as it were? Mr. Kurzweil, forgive me, but I'm thinking you're somewhat behind the learning curve on this one. The universe is not waiting for humanity to come along and eventually infuse it with our nanotechnology and bring it alive. The creation is already alive, and the heavens are telling of the glory of God, and their expanse is declaring the work of his hands. Day to day pours forth speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. There is no speech, there are no words, their voice is not heard, yet their line has gone out through all the earth, and their utterances to the end of the world. And, I wonder what's really going to happen when, if, humanity releases its super artificial intelligence into the creation and points its nanotechnology toward the stars. Perhaps, maybe, nothing. Because a far more ancient intelligence, a far greater intelligence, the ultimate singularity, the one who, having already existed for eons prior to the dawn of our paltry human existence, and therefore infinitely beyond the exponential developmental scale of anything we could ever produce or bring into existence, will simply absorb it. Despite what might appear to be the limitless ability of a man-made superintelligence to gain and implement new knowledge, or to exponentially recreate itself beyond all human imagination, the question remains, what would any latecomer of human creation, a super AI or whatever, really be able to bring to the table? What meaning? What value? What benefit? What real contribution would it be able to make in light of the ultimate superintelligence who has already existed, shall we say, eternally before it? For by him all things were created both in the heavens and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things have been created through him and for him. He is before all things, and in him all things hold together. So, I think it's kind of funny, in a sad sort of way, that people will buy into at least the possibility of the emergence of a super AI, but will completely discount the existence of God, the ultimate intelligence. And, it also amazes me that, despite research into the realm of quantum physics indicating the possibility of there being multiple dimensions and perhaps even parallel universes, people still shut off their minds to the possibility of the existence of an alternate reality or a spiritual realm existing in close proximity and yet just beyond, as it were, our own physical material dimension. Of course, there are multiple dimensions. Of course, there are parallel universes. People of faith have known that all along. Authentic Christians are multi-dimensional thinkers. We are all about multi-dimensional realms inhabited by intelligences that exist just beyond the scope of our immediate perceptions. I know it's rather unlikely, but really, I kind of hope that a general AI and even a super AI emerges sometime in my lifetime. And I hope, although again it would be extremely unlikely, that common everyday people like you and me could have at least limited access to it. You know, like to make inquiry, to ask it things, sort of like we do with the internet these days. If I could have that opportunity to ask a super AI anything in the world, I think I would ask it, "So, have you bumped into God out there yet? If so, what are your perceptions of the ultimate singularity?" And I'm pretty sure that any super artificial intelligence that we humans are capable of creating would probably feel pretty, childish compared to him.